Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Do You Ever Wonder? I am your host, Mike Haltman. I'm the CEO of Hallmark Abstract Service, and tonight we have a very special guest. He has interviewed Barack Obama. He has interviewed all 5 of the Shark Tank sharks. He has written a best-selling book on branding. He has also started 4 companies and sold 2 of them. And he'll also correct me if I missed anything or if I didn't emphasize something well enough. But I would like to introduce, very proud to have him with us, Ramon Ray.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. You got it all right. Glad to be here and add value and serve your audience. So thank you so much for having me here.
That's fantastic. So I'm a small businessman. I own a title company. It's what some people might consider to be a commodity business in a very niche area. But by the same token, there's the opportunity that I feel to be able to differentiate myself, to be able to brand myself, and to bring some level of difference to my client base that brings them value. And, in your opinion, I would assume that branding has a place in pretty much every business. Would you agree with that?
I would agree. Absolutely. For sure.
Okay. So now my career path started back in 2000. Well, it started much longer ago than that. But in 2008, I started my company with my wife. It was at the bottom of the financial crisis. Title insurance was a difficult niche, to say the least. But as an entrepreneur, which I am, what do you see that gets in the way of an entrepreneur, whether it's in a commodity business, whether it's someone who already has a business, whether it's someone who's looking to start a business? What are the impediments to getting started? What are some of the impediments to success that, in your experience, you've seen people have?
Sure. Thank you, Michael. It's a very broad question. So let me take one slice of it, because I could go, what's an impediment to starting the business? What's the impediment to growing the business? But I'll take a slice that you touched on. That
in actuality, not to interrupt, but I would love. I've heard you speak before. I met Ramon originally at Adrian's Network, which is a phenomenal networking group for anyone who's looking for business development. But he's a great speaker. So whatever you would like to embellish on that point would be fantastic.
Yeah, no, I'll address it to the slice about branding a commodity business. That's what I'll do. If you want more, you can feel free to prompt me, and I'll try to remember. But I think that if it's a commodity business, and I'm going to take the worst case example, let's assume where there's nothing, how you're saying it and just listening to the tone of your voice, that there's nothing special about it. It's boring. That either everybody knows about it or nobody knows about it. One of the two. You'll have to tell me more. I would say it falls back to that owner. I think if it's a commodity business and I'm selling duct tape in a store, that's nothing. It's nothing special about it. We all sell the same duct tape. In that case, then for me, it'd be the dude or the gal selling the duct tape. Why should I buy from them? I would think if the duct tape's all the same price, all the same differentiation, there's nothing remarkable about his duct tape or her duct tape, I would think it boils down to the person. There was a video I was watching of a young man selling cleaning, some kind of cleaning liquid. You may have seen the video. It's cleaning liquid. It's a YouTube video, has millions of views, and he pours it on the floor and gets gum up and gets the gunk up off makes your door shiny and white if it's a white door, things like that. But he was just hysterical, very comedic. So again, imagine we're in a business where we're all selling the same thing, all selling the same boring bottled water, as it were. I would think, but I'd love your input. I could be wrong, that it boils down to that person. And I would think, what's the charisma, the excitement, the sizzle, or not, of them? I think that's what it boils down to when trying to brand a commodity, as it were, business. But again, my opinion, I would think sometimes some things we say are commodity may not be commodity.
Well, I appreciate your input, and I don't disagree. I mean, I know the sales funnel, the know, like, trust, and people like to do business with people who they like. They like to do business with people who they can trust. And, I always say, so title insurance, I didn't mean to imply that it is a So one of the ways that I sell my business is that it's not a commodity, that there are differences.
Okay.
And I work hard to articulate those businesses. And, I work hard to articulate to both attorneys, but also to the home buyer who has that option to choose their title company. So I agree that you have to try and create a sizzle. In some businesses, there is a sizzle if you're selling, luxury racing boats. But I think no, I agree 100%. But also to the success versus not success, are there emotional barriers within people that can prevent them from being successful?
Sure. I mean, I think that there could be many emotional barriers. I have emotional barriers with myself, lack of self-worth that I suffer with sometimes, or at times being very down or depressed about things. So I think we all have some emotional barriers, as it were. And I think that when it comes into branding in particular, but we can expand this to other topics that are important to business, I think that one barrier to that could be to understand that what I'm doing is important. So again, going to the silly example, I'm tired of holding this up, but if I'm selling water bottles like this, and I think it's ho-hum, I think, well, nobody probably wants it or needs it. It will be affected by me. But if I'm like, yo, Michael, this is your water bottle, you gotta get it. If I have that excitement, you're going to be excited. If you're excited, you're going to tell your grandmother, your great grandmother, and your aunt, and your cousin, and your dog too. So I think that barrier can happen with it if we don't feel that confidence, which I know for myself as a speaker, raising my rates as a speaker, it took me a while to be in the right position to do that, because not that I didn't think I was good. It's just for whatever reason, just to say a fee or to say a number was hard until I was able to say, you know what? No, I'm Ramon, and not in an arrogant way, but in a way of this is what I deserve, and I can say it with my mouth. So I think I had to break my own mental barrier with some help and God's grace to get that done.
That's great. So I forget the name of the movie, but We're Not Worthy. And it's a mental struggle for a lot of people to overcome the feeling of not being worthy. But when you're, there are times, let's take COVID. Some people were forced into position to where they needed to reinvent, or still do need to reinvent. They're coming off of a negative environment where they either lost their job, or because of COVID and the business shutdown, they lost their business. So you're coming from, I'm always curious, because, I fight some of the same demons that I'm sure you do. And it's like, how do you as an individual overcome those feelings of self-doubt, those feelings, like, what do you do? Is there an exercise you can do? Is it like go to the gym and lift a few weights and get your body in shape? What is it that you can do practically to take an individual who has a great idea or a great concept or a great business proposition and get them over the hump to where they can actually grab themselves by the seat of the pants and execute?
No, I think it's a powerful question. I think that there's a few ways to answer it. I think, and I don't know if every solution will be practical. Unfortunately, it could be, a bit like we've talked about further, a bit of mindset. But I know a few things that may come to mind, how to get our mindset shifted. I think one, for me, my faith is very important. So I'm pretty strong in my faith, and that may not be for everybody, but I know that's a big component. When I feel down, when I feel unworthy, my faith comes into play, and is very important. I think it's one. I think two, going with the aspect of contentment. It sounds like reverse, like Ramon. How does being content make you bounce up or feel worthy, as it were? I think that when you're content, you're happy with what you have, which leads into being grateful. And if you're grateful, this doesn't mean that you don't want to progress and go forward, but I think it also means you don't wallow in staying in the present. So I think that's two. I think three, surrounding yourself with people who are A players or ballers. It's hard to stay down. It's hard to think you're not worthy if you're around people that are, slipping and falling and failing, and they're like, that's okay, let's get back up and do it again. You can't help but that's a success they have, that charisma they have, that can-do attitude they have. I think it's infectious. So I think that's point three. And I think four, and actually it's probably repeating what I just said, though, is surrounding yourself with good people. I think that's probably what it is, and recognizing it. And I must say, Michael, as you know, I would assume we're all different. The struggle you have, the path you have, the journey you have, is different than my path, my journey. The journey I have, the things I've gone through in life are going to be different than things you've gone through in life. Different paths. But I think what brings us all together is the human brain's ability of elasticity, ability to progress and grow, if allowed. So I hope that's helpful. I'm not a doctor, but those are some things from my journey that at least I've done that have helped me.
Well, I got to tell you, you have had a successful journey. So any sharing that you do of your journey is beneficial both to me and to anybody who's listening to this. So just looking at your journey as an entrepreneur, how did you develop ideas? How did you execute on those ideas? Was it innate? I mean, I think it was something that you felt from early on in your life. But how did you, because obviously to create businesses, to sell businesses, you need to have a path. And you've obviously had a strong path. How did that come about? Was it from the factors you just mentioned?
I think so. And I think that part of it is, how we're made, our DNA. Does this mean that someone who doesn't have whatever that is will fail? No, that means they just have a different muscle. So, for example, I'm working on a project right now that's a very, very large, it's a multi-million-dollar project. I'm not a multi-millionaire and et cetera, not my world. Blessed and doing very well, but I'm not a billionaire, millionaire, whatever you want to call it, or multimillionaire at least. So my point is that I'm working on a very big deal. So how is this going to come about? Either A, Michael, it's not going to happen. That's just a binary. It's not going to happen, and that's fine. But what am I doing to help it happen? A, I'm pretty good at selling my ideas. 2, there's people who know, like, and trust Ramon who believe in the smaller things I've done in the past. 3, I'd like to think what I'm good at a little bit is bringing together the right people. So you're in the real estate business, Michael. You know all about it. I know nothing about it, but I'm pretty confident that if I wanted to go in the real estate business, I'd be successful as well, not knowing what you know today, but meaning I would just hire you. Right. I could bring together the right people who knew it. So that's a third skill that I have. I may not know how to make pens, but you know what? Due to the power of LinkedIn and the internet, no one has an excuse to say they can't figure out how to find black pen tops. That information is there for anybody to find out. So if that's helpful, I think that's been part of my journey to be able to find the right people, bring them together. And I must say also my tolerance for risk. Some people are risk averse. The fear grabs them. Now, you shouldn't do anything to hurt your family, to hurt your health, shouldn't do anything to go in massive debt. But I think that ability to welcome risk, the ability to take fear and enjoy it, like jumping out of an airplane, that pit you feel in your stomach. Some people, it prevents you from going out of the airplane. Other people, it's like, okay, I feel scared. Woo, let's go. So that's a little bit how I take life, and I think which has helped on the things I've done. Even though I have a long way to go, and I'm blessed to learn from so many people, learning from you and things you share in our mutual connections. I think that those are some things that have helped me to go on and go forward.
So there's got to be some balance between somebody who wants to jump out of a plane, which is actually one of the things on my bucket list, and somebody who's completely risk averse and only wants to do a 9-to-5 job. So you can't be all in on every aspect of things that you do. Do you have to be?
Well, taking it to the business world, I guess as humans, we don't have to be everything. But let's take basketball as an example. I bet at least 30% of the people listening to this right now, live or afterwards, have seen the Michael Jordan Netflix movie, Last Dance. Those of you who haven't, look on Netflix, look at Last Dance. Michael Jordan, basketball player, those who don't know. And the bottom line is what he talked about is that those who have excelled and those who've risen to the top, they did leave it all on the court. Not only did they have the aptitude for the game, but they also had the heart. They had the drive to press on. So, Michael, I do think, yes, there are some gray areas, some middle of the roads. But I think for many things in life, if you're not a person that's driven, there's no problem in saying, you know what? I don't want to own my own business. Let me work for Michael or work for Ramon. He has the system already built. He's going to pay me 9 to 5, and I'm going to do what he asked me to do. That's nothing, no problem with that.
Absolutely
no dishonor at all. You're not a failure at all. It's just the path I've chose, and maybe Michael has chosen, the path that we business owner have chosen. It's a hard path. The road is not built for us, but we thrive on building our road. So yes, I think there are middle of the roads, but taking the example of the plane jump, if you are going to jump out of the plane, you can't jump out halfway. In that case, be the pilot, or be the guy or gal who makes the concrete on the landing, in our silly example here, the landing strip, so the plane can land. Be in the air traffic control tower. This doesn't mean there's not a place for you in life. This just means you can't jump out of the plane. That's not your calling.
So the point is that a team is comprised of many, many people, a leader, and then you have your rank and file who follow that leader, assuming the leader is charismatic and focused and driven enough to create that bond with their underlings. But you've mentioned two words that I think are key. One is heart. I used to coach all my kids in sports, and the old saying is you can't coach heart. And it becomes very obvious early on who has it and who doesn't have it.
Right.
And that, again, people can be role players, but heart is definitely something you tend to either be born with, or it's just an innate kind of personality trait that you have. Yeah. But the other is, you mentioned the word being grateful, or gratitude. And during this COVID crisis, I think gratitude has become so much more of a critical piece to how people live their lives. And if you're going to build a business, if you're going to start a business, A, you have to be grateful for what you have, and then B, you have to have the heart to make whatever it is you want to happen actually happen. And those are combinations that I see every day, people who should be grateful who might not necessarily be grateful. And it's a shame because I always told my kids growing up, look down, don't look up. It's human nature to want what you don't have. But yet we're all, or not all, many of us are very lucky, and we need to try and be grateful for what we have and help those who are not as lucky as we are.
That's right. And
I just segued a little bit away from branding and entrepreneurship, but so be it.
Oh, good. I can take the conversation wherever you want to go, as long as it's not too deep about finances. That's where I'll start to falter a bit.
No. So branding. Now, I have I don't view it as a commodity business, but branding is critical no matter what business you're in. I mean, in your opinion, differentiation, or the attempt to differentiate, are there a lot more important things in business other than being likable, other than knowing your product, other than not sitting behind your desk and being out there? I think being out there is another critical aspect of business. But, creating a brand around your business, do you view that as a critical piece? Obviously, I think you do. Piece of the puzzle of the business development building puzzle. And
I think so.
And what do you view as branding? I know you write articles, you do shows like this. What other types of branding do you do? Yeah,
well, remind me to answer that one. There's a few questions there, but I think that branding, I think there's the aspect of the personal brand, and then there's the aspect of the business brand. So the business brand, I think, in large part is, and all of it is, what do people think about you, in general? Folgers. The best part of waking up is Folgers. We can probably smell coffee as we think of Folgers. An older brand, iconic brand, but if you get the point. When you think of Clorox, we admittedly, our noses tingle a bit. Tesla, cool, modern, right? We think of these things. FedEx, fast. So I think that for businesses, we can have the same earn the same type of brand imagery in people's mind when they think of our business. Where I demarcate the physical corporate brand, like a Starbucks, great company, and other company like it, and there's smaller companies too, of course, but we don't talk about them because they're in smaller markets. Your company could be, or Smart Hustle. But the point being is that there's the corporate brand, which is important. But yes, as you said, Michael, where I focus on is what does the personal brand mean? And I call this the celebrity CEO concept. And my book is written by that. You can just go to Smart Hustle, look up articles and all kinds of things. Point being is that I think that the celebrity CEO concept, there's two things are important. One, it's the aspect building a community of fans who you inspire, who you educate, who want to receive what you're delivering out, whatever that may be. It could be podcast, could be book, could be event, could be social media, number of things that you're imparting to this community they can latch onto and remember you. And you're educating them to a sale. And the second part of that is, that I talk about often is asking for a smile before you ask for a sale. Sales is important. Direct sales. Hey, Michael, this is Ramon Ray. You came to our webinar. Could you buy from us? Learning how to sell is important. Our mutual friend Adrian Miller knows all about that. And I would say, though, but it's still important, I think, not to just be focused on sale, but to focus on, have I made a connection with this someone in some way? Have I earned the right to get their attention, to educate them? Because if I've done those two things right, and it's the right target audience, and they know, like, and trust me, they will buy from me most of the time. So when I think of branding, Michael, that's the kind of thing I think about. Do people know who I am? And am I a celebrity CEO, meaning well-known in my market? That's the key thing. Not well-known to the world. There's only one Kim Kardashian, only one LeBron James, only one Donald Trump, only one Barack Obama. But we all can be well-known in our market.
So now how do you become well-known in a market niche that's very crowded, that's not a well-known market niche? You know, how do you, what do you see people doing to get their foot out front, to get their face out front, to get in front of their competition? As a personal brand, as a business brand, you know, it's very crowded out there. How do you part the crowd and poke your head out front?
Sure. Well, for the business brand, of course, there's many different ways to do it. Massive amount of advertising, massive amount, and this is free, of training your team to deliver great value to customers, focusing on the customer experience. There's many things the business can do, that's for sure. And semi-related to that, I'm a firm believer that for the personal brand side, and I'm talking to, again, business owners who are very small companies like myself, what we can do is similar to what I've said. I think the person who does an inordinate amount of content to educate the customers, one of my buddies has a book out called They Ask You Answer. Part of that, answering questions your customers have. So my point being is that the person who can be out there at events, networking, webinars, online events, producing their own events, social media content, all that wraps a 360 around the customer's mind, and they think, title issues. What's that guy's name? Michael, that's right, et cetera, et cetera. So that's how that's done. I've done it in my own business. When large brands are thinking of an influencer who can reach small businesses, my name is one of the first they think to in my space. I'm nobody special. I'm not, well famous and all this, but in my narrow field, if you're a technology brand, you most likely have heard of Ramon Ray. If you haven't, you probably should be fired. That's how well known I am in my small niche. I'm not saying I'm famous overall, but in my niche of large tech brands, marketing to small businesses, that's the celebrity CEO status, or the niche that I've carved.
Which is phenomenal and phenomenally powerful, which is you should be very proud to have achieved that. No question about it. So tell me a little bit about Smart Hustle.
Sure. We inspire and educate small business owners to start and grow their businesses. That's what we do, so they can support their families, or they can provide for their families rather, and support their communities. So it is an ecosystem of content on A to Z of small business success. We have a community. You can go to Smarthustlecom, look at community, and many people ask me questions, ask the community questions, and then we provide value to our community. But overall, how to start and grow your business. That's what we do at Smarthustle.com.
So for anyone who's listening, who's interested in growing their business, who's interested in learning more, asking questions, getting viable answers, Smarthustle.com would be a great starting point for them.
Absolutely.
That's great. That's great. And your book on branding would also be of great benefit to people who are trying to take their small business to the next level, I would assume.
Absolutely. They can all find that right at Smarthustle.com. Indeed.
That's terrific. So last question, in terms of leveraging. So your business is your business. My business is my business. What is social media? So I post on social media. Now, I don't necessarily post about title insurance because I don't necessarily think that people are that interested in title insurance. But what I've garnered from our discussion tonight is that may be a mistake, that I should be focused more on educating title insurance, speaking about title insurance, because that's how you create the persona of title insurance expert. You're not looking to, I shouldn't be looking necessarily to be accumulating an ecosystem of people who may not be in my niche, or may never be.
And now, one thing I'll add to that, as we mentioned, is that you have a few people who may be referral partners to you. Those people, what do they need? You may want to expand one level up and be in front of them possibly. But yes, in general, if you're selling, our silly example, selling pens, you want to be the pen guy, or teachers who may be telling students to get pens. Teachers should know you. That silly example, but you get what I mean.
No, that's interesting. So it's not a matter of being the biggest on social media. It's more a matter of being the most targeted, which is something that I'm taking away from our little discussion tonight, which is great. One of the purposes of this is to try and bring value to people, to try and give them at least one nugget from these discussions that they can take away and use in their day-to-day life, whether it's personal improvement, self-help, or business help. And that from you is for me, and hopefully for other people who are listening to this, is a huge takeaway. And I thank you for that.
It's my pleasure to be here, and thank you for serving us by having myself. And I appreciate your time, and thanks for having me. It's been fun.
And just one quick thing for anyone who's interested, I have RamonRay.com scrolling on the bottom.
Sure.
It is a better resource, Smarthustle.com.
Either one, where they go. Thank you. For RamonRay.com is just fine. Thank you.
Okay, that's fantastic. And Ramon, thank you very much for being here. It's been great. It's been very educational and fantastic. And I wish you nothing but Godspeed in the future.
It's received. We all need a lot more of that. Thank you, Michael.
Absolutely. You take good care.